It's grind time. Let's go out there and eat. We're the most dominant team in the league. Let's keep it today. Let's work. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, work.
And a pleasant good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Broncos Stadium at Mile High, as today the Denver Broncos will host the Oakland Raiders in the regular season game number 2 of this 2018 season.
Hey, we out here today. Rivalry, big win on the way.
Tune in, because 48 going to go off today. I'm trying to tell you. Hey, don't miss it.
The Broncos erased a 12-point halftime deficit to beat the Raiders 20-19. Hello, and thank you for joining us for the Broncos Film Review. I'm Phil Milani, alongside Matt Boyer, Steve Atwater, Ray Crockett. The whole cast is here. Guys, what do you think about the game in general? Ray, let's start with you.
First of all, I thought it was a good win. Let's just put that together. Anytime you can get a win is a good win in the NFL. But we started off a little shaky. You know, there were some things I saw in the first half that I was surprised, actually. I was surprised to see that Derek Carr got off to the start that he got off to. And quite frankly, I was surprised to see that we got off really, really slow.
Yeah, definitely surprising that we got off to a slow start again. But, you know, my overall take on it is that I think it's good to play in a game that's so close and, you know, have Case Keenum go through some adversity there early and then come out at the end, and then it's all good. You know, it's like a good movie where, you know, have some adversity at the beginning and at the end, it all turns out fine.
It's funny because Coach Vance Joseph said he looked up at halftime. Derek Carr was 18 for 19. Ball barely hit the floor, as Case Keenum said after the game. So when you've got a quarterback like that just on his game, short pass after short pass, those tight ends, those running backs, they use them very effectively. It's hard to get any momentum, but the Broncos eventually did, and thank goodness they did in that second half.
It was their biggest comeback since 2012, but the key is you don't want to be in that situation in the first place.
Keenum throwing, that's complete. And that's going to be short of a first down by about a yard or so. And again, the punting unit comes on.
Carr in shotgun, 4-man rush. Carr in the pocket. He's going to be hit and sacked back at the 30-yard line. And Von Miller is at it again.
I felt like we did it right in the pass rush. Whenever we got the pass rush started, he was just throwing the ball. So, you know, it's the DB's game. No, Derek is a great quarterback. We already know how fast he throws the ball, and it was no surprise in today's game.
Lindsey's down the sideline, 45-40, foot race 35-30, inside the 25, forced out of bounds at the 22-yard line. There's the big play magic of Philip Lindsey. Shotgun, Case Keenum, end zone throw will be intercepted inside the 5-yard line. That's picked off by Rashawn Melvin, and Melvin knocked down at the Raiders' 16-yard line.
Lynch, diving, touchdown.
Handed off to Lynch. Lynch up over left guard and dives into the end zone with a Raiders touchdown. The Broncos have just blocked the extra point, and I think in a half like this, you have to look for any positives, and that's a positive.
In the first half, guys, the offense really struggled to get the ball going. Emmanuel Sanders didn't even have any targets.
And that was really surprising, especially after the game last week. But when you look at it from an adverse situation, you got to think about it. They were probably thinking that the Raiders would double him and do some transitional defenses toward Emmanuel, so we see if we can get some other guys going and then come back to him. The biggest key for me, though, was our defense. Our defense looked like we were very basic. We were easy to detect. That, to me, has to change for us to get better, because our secondary guys, Chris Harris is the only real all-pro that we have back there, so we're going to have to do some transitional stuff.
With Carr getting rid of the ball so fast, does that mean you got to come up and press, mess up that timing a little bit?
For sure. I mean, that's the only thing I'd say. You cannot let receivers get free releases. You cannot let quarterbacks get an idea to have time and routes. You have to somehow, some way throw off the timing.
We saw Case Keenum on the other side have an interception. Broncos finally got the ball moving a little bit. Bad throw. What'd you see on that play, Steve?
Yeah, well, it was a bad throw, and really and truly, we had three and outs in the first half, and we really didn't get any momentum going until really the third quarter, when we had an 11-play drive, then another 10-play drive, and things just started rolling at that point. But that whole first half, it was ups and downs, and more downs than ups.
And Shaq came through big time there on that block.
Well,
right?
You mentioned it, right? Like I think you were the one who sent out the tweet, right?
I did.
Pat yourself on the back there, Phil. I think that, you know, you don't know how big that play is going to be until you look back on it and you're like, oh, this turned the tide.
Yeah.
I mean, an insignificant play. We're sitting up in the press box. It's like, oh, okay,
yeah,
block extra point, like whatever, it's fine. But it's those plays, those small little details that Coach Joseph mentioned after the game that win you football games, and it did.
And in the second half, the offense got things rolling right away. come out with an opening drive touchdown.
Triple tight end set, one of them a lineman. They hand it to Freeman left side. Freeman into the end zone. Touchdown, Denver. Attitude play right there. He followed fullback Andy Janovich. And the Broncos finally on the board. 12-6, Oakland.
Car to the end zone. Seth Roberts with the catch for the touchdown.
Every week is different. Everybody has ball players that can make plays. It's the NFL, so and it's the AFC West. I mean, when you play in the AFC West, it's rivalry games. It can go up in the air. You never know who's going to win.
Play fake, and the ball dropped in the flat by Keith Smith. Derek Carr had the fullback Keith Smith wide open in the flat, and the ball went right through his hands, incomplete. Empty backfield now. Lindsey in the slot left, 3 right, 2 to the left. Keenum, quarterback draw to the goal line. Touchdown, Denver! And the Broncos, with 5:58 left in this game, have closed within 19-16.
I tried to go low at the goal line. Unfortunately, I went, kind of right in the back of Matt's knees. Luckily, he's all right, but I felt really bad. Offensive line are my guys, man. I love those guys. They play their hearts out today, and I think I could probably score without running into the back of my lineman there. But great play call.
Forward, far side, that is complete. First down yardage for Tim Patrick and more down the sideline and out of bounds.
And I knew we didn't have a timeout, so I was trying to get as much yards as I possibly can. Once I felt him on my leg and I broke the tackle, I seen it was one-on-one with the safety. That's when I beelined it for the sideline.
This will be an attempt of 36 yards by Brandon McManus for the win. Snap, placement, McManus has it up. It is good!
Yeah, Brandon McManus coming through with a huge field goal, 36-yarder there to win the game. What do you think changed at halftime?
I think at halftime, the first thing that changed is that the coaches realized Emmanuel Sanders doesn't have a touch yet. So when they came out, they started to actually do formational stuff for Emmanuel to get him open. I think they were too basic early. And what else was big was getting the young guys involved. You saw him started to go to the young guys, go to Sutton on the outside with some 50-50 balls. When you start doing that, then teams started to say, wait a minute, he's not just looking for DT and he's not just looking for Emmanuel. Now they have to go back to a basic defense.
You mentioned DT there with the drops. What do you think is going on? Is it a mental thing, Steve?
Well, I think it may be mental. I'm not sure, but we know DT, he's had some drops at some points in his career, but I'm not a person who loses faith in a playmaker. DT has been extremely vital to the success of this organization. And, DT, I would say, hey, after practice, hit the jugs for a couple of weeks just to make sure that, your hands are right and that you're making those catches that you should catch. But my confidence in him has not decreased at all.
He's got to catch those balls, though,
He
right?
does. No, he does.
Without a doubt. I mean,
He knows that.
You don't
And
lose
he knows
focus.
that more than anybody.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And that's the thing about it. Sometimes it's just not your day. But the biggest thing that I saw out of DT is that he came back. He was blocking well. He didn't get down on himself. You didn't see him drop his head. He stayed in the game. And at the end of the game, he made a couple of plays that were big time.
The second week in a row, we also saw something that needs to get corrected. Chris Harris, Justin Simmons, the communication between those guys gave up a touchdown. What's so difficult about it? I mean, you guys worked okay together, right?
I told him everything good.
I know back when we played, we used to get tested, the night before the game, a couple days before the game. Coach would put on there certain formations and with the motions, and we'd have to go through that and make sure we had it right. And we wouldn't always get it perfectly, but that would open up the door for conversations with the coach and the rest of your defensive backfield group to make sure that we're on the same page. So I'm not sure if they're doing that or not, but if not, I would suggest that.
Well, one thing that's a struggle as well is for Chris Harris, because Chris Harris needs to be on the number one wide receiver. When Cooper was getting hot like that, normally when we played, of course, I would move to the number one guy. I wanted that challenge. Chris wants that challenge as well, but the problem is we have no one who can play in the slot.
And one of the bright spots, Philip Lindsay, he becomes the first undrafted rookie in NFL history to have 100 yards from scrimmage in his first 2 games. What makes him so difficult to defend?
I think it's just the versatility. I think that when you look at Lindsey, you can split him out wide. Out of the backfield, he's catching passes. But between the tackles, too, I mean, he finds those little creases. He broke that 52-yard run we saw earlier. I think that when you have a guy like that, it opens up so many different lanes for other guys on the field. And he's dangerous. I mean, anywhere you look on the field, you have to account for number 30.
Well, it's really called 4-3-5 speed. That's what makes him dangerous. All that you said sounds good. 4.35 explosion.
But we've seen guys who run 4.35 who don't have the heart or the courage to go in between the tackles like he does. So I have to give him credit. He's not the biggest guy,
he understands
but he's willing and you know, he's able to get through those holes because he believes he can do it.
And Phil, I reiterate this, that once again, when you go to the combines, you go to workouts, you can measure everything until you cut this open.
Oh yeah.
If you could cut that open, then it would be a perfect science.
A lot of heart from Philip Lindsay. Guys, the team heads on the road for the first time, headed to face a tough Baltimore team. What do you want to see? What do you expect from this matchup?
Man, I'd like to see us get off to a fast start. It's time for our offense. Normally, it takes the offense a little longer to gel than it does defense. So I expected them to get off to some slow starts, but now we have to get off to some fast starts. We have to really put the ball down the field. Three and outs. We can't do that, you know, against this Baltimore team. So I'm looking to see them get a faster start.
Yeah, I agree that the offense is going to have to step up a lot faster. Of course, this Baltimore Ravens defense is one of the better defenses in the NFL right now. So the defense is going to have to keep the composure and know that we got to play for a full 60 minutes and know that the offense may struggle some and still be okay with that.
This is a team that is very familiar with Joe Flacco. You think back to the Chris Harris 100-yard interception back the last time the Broncos went to Baltimore, and then of course, you know, the miracle throw in the playoffs. I know. We don't want to talk about that. But this is a team that's very familiar with what Joe Flacco is capable of, and they've had some success against him. Let's see if that can continue.
All right, this Broncos team is 2-0 for the 6th consecutive year. That's going to do it for us. For Ray Crockett, Steve Atwater, Matt Boyer, I'm Phil Milani. Thanks for watching the Broncos Recap Show.